Still the Place with Laura Layton,
Courtney Thorne-Smith,
and Daphne Zuniga, an iHeartRadio podcast. Hey guys, hey everyone.
Hi.
Pulling ourselves together for this.
We have a very good recap episode this week.
Yeah, it's a good episode. It's funny because I'll lead us in the recap, and I found some cool trivia right at the top.
What's your trivia? Tell us.
Well, okay, so this was directed, this is episode 30, Carpe Diem. It aired on April 28th, 1993, and it was directed by Richard Lang. And I knew that Richard Lang he did 17 Melrose episodes.
Yeah, he'd get us out by lunch.
Very recurring.
Yes. Well, what I learned about him was that his father, Walter Lang, was very close friends with Clark Gable and Carole Lombard. And in fact, they were our Richard Lang's godparents.
Wow.
And I mean, if I knew that on set, we're just like these, you don't know in that era who you're working with. Old Hollywood.
We couldn't Google anything.
You can't Google.
Yeah.
And when is there time? You're running in between sets. And I just thought, God, we could have sat down and heard stories about Clark Gable at, at dinners and family dinners and stuff. But
what cool old Hollywood insight. I wish we'd had that.
I know. Yeah. I know it's and especially that era where the people that we were working with in TV had film careers. And then this Richard Lang's father, Walter Lang, was in the silent era. I mean, the guy was born in like 1896.
Just completely missed us.
They
completely went over our heads.
Yeah. They helped create this whole business. And we had them in the years when they were doing, directing and TV and stuff.
And we were in our years where we were too dumb to ask those questions.
We were starting.
Yeah. We were just clueless.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a really kind of cool crossover time era back then. And I mentioned that to my husband. He was like, oh, none of your listeners are going to even know. None of your listeners are going to know who Clark Gable was.
Yeah,
and
Clark
I'm
who?
like,
Yes, they will.
Yes, they will. Who do you think
Our kids won't, but our listeners do.
Yeah. We have a grown-up audience. Yeah. So anyway, kind of cool to bring us into this episode, which was a very cool episode. But it opens up with this wonderful, very Melrose-y montage of the Avenue, 1993. That we start on snakeskin cowboy boots. I'm sure you guys lit up, saw those.
I think those boots have walked the opening shots before.
Have they?
But you know what I noticed?
I feel like they weren't the first time.
I think this is when we started bringing in original music. I noticed a couple of original songs. Like when artists wanted to be played on Melrose Place, I was like, that's a new song.
There's
still, do you think that?
There's still, some surprising music moments. But I also think that a lot of the rights to the songs weren't available for the streaming version. So I have a feeling some songs had to be changed, for the actual rights to those original songs.
Now
weren't right, but they're trying to match the tone of it with music that's stock and available.
Well, the music for the original Melrose was iconic, especially the title music for sure.
Well, the theme song for sure.
The theme song for sure. But also it became a place where lots of bands and artists would want their stuff, like the Goo Goo Dolls or whoever. They would, I think, come on and be a part of the show. It got known for that, its music. So
yeah, we were cool.
And it's
we were a cool place to be.
And Courtney's shoulder pads. Those are the two things.
Yes, they were like a co-star. They got a little separate billing.
They should have.
So as the camera comes in on Billy and Allison's apartment, and he's so excitedly cooking breakfast. I mean, he's just got this spring in his step. He's so excited.
Well, remind us what had happened the night before.
Well, the night before, I believe she was standing in the doorway with a very oversized men's shirt with nothing underneath.
No pants. Allison's signature look. No pants.
It was Allison, no pants previously.
And maybe shoulder pads. I'm not sure if she's seducing him. At any rate, they end up kissing. And right after they kiss, Billy's like seeing stars. And she's like, good night, Billy. She goes into her room.
So they kiss for the first time, but that's it. And so now this is the morning after.
Last night, this is the morning after. And as he's very excitedly making breakfast, Allison enters. And I wanted to know, Courtney, if you had any comments on your beige skirt and jacket set.
This is a repeat, this jacket. All I'm screaming at the TV as I'm watching it is tailor it. Tailor it. I just want things more fitted. Amanda walks around in these beautifully tailored things, and it
Yeah.
looks like I'm borrowing things from a relative who's a completely different size. I
Well,
just,
Yours is sort of
a maiden
oversized.
aunt.
this
In
is
your
the
defense, though,
Midwest good girl
there
look.
was something about that era that was like a style, that was an acceptable style. Because I have photographs, like just personal
Yeah.
photographs of how I was dressing around
Yeah,
this time, and I had a huge oversized blazer. For what reason? It was like this
for sure.
men's boxy thing. Like, why did I? I'm a small person. Why did I
That's true.
think
It
that was?
looks
So
kind
I
of
do
Annie
think there was a
Hall, but that's the
style.
70s. No, you're right. It was the
Was very
style,
much
but
a look.
Yeah.
The kind
you
of more
shouldn't wear it on
space and
TV
fabric.
because everything looks bigger anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
now we know, right? We learn, many years later in
Now
retrospect.
we know.
But we probably still thought it was cool at the time when we saw it on TV.
But anyway, what I noticed about this scene is how sweetly shy they are. Like, I
Yeah.
really want them to just
They're
be,
so
they
shy.
finally had their first kiss. I want them to be all over each other. But this entire scene, they're acting like an old married
Well,
couple
no,
who've been
Allison
making up
is.
for years.
Allison is putting the brakes on.
Oh,
Billy is
enough,
not. He's
Allison.
like, you're like, we should talk about last night. We've talked enough. Well, we should go slow. We've been living together a year. I don't want with this slow. It's already, ready to go. And he's like handing you breakfast and wanting to kiss you. And you're like,
I know. She's reading as disinterested, which I'm not a fan of.
Well, it was like it struck me as like nervous and scared and a little bit like all of a sudden self-conscious about it. Like,
yeah.
Okay, well, that's a better reading.
it became self-conscious because before it was like she wanted to be spontaneous, and then all of a sudden, now that they've kissed and now that it's real thing, all of a sudden she's panicking and sort of self-conscious about it. And she's like, well, hey, when she's putting on the brake, she's suggesting they go on a real date first.
Yeah.
He's like,
We haven't even been on a date. So he's like, well, great. What are your plans tonight? I'm taking you out to the most romantic night, basically, he says. So he's like, whatever you want. Let's just keep this thing going. It's so cute. So I feel like it's so interesting, those two. They're always like stop and go, stop and go. You know what I mean? Like it gets going and the brakes are on. They get going but they're very adorable in this one. And then after he says, okay, I'm taking you out on romantic night tonight. So you get ready for our first date. Then we cut to the next scene is the devil. Oh, I mean, Michael shaving, and his beautiful, loving wife is nuzzling up behind him in the mirror in the bathroom and wanting to get frisky and saying, I miss you, Michael. And he says, well, tomorrow night's our anniversary. So, let's wait till then. And she's like, I want you. And he's like, well, wait
This
till
is the
tomorrow.
second scene when he's shaving and rejecting her. I'm like, this is a theme. I'm not a fan of the theme.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and I love our producers put out that reels that said, red flag, he's shaving on his day off.
Yeah. Total red flag. And he's turning down his wife, and he's standing in only a towel in this
Yes.
scene, which, I mean, this is a little bit of foreshadowing. We'll get to that later, but he's just wearing a towel in this
Yeah.
scene
Well,
and turning down his beautiful wife.
and he's turning down his beautiful, sweet wife, and they've only been married a couple years. So he scoots her out of the bathroom. Now, scoot, like shuts the door, and she's like, okay. So you start to see that she's unhappy, kind of like wheels maybe turning in her
Well,
mind.
remember in the last episode, he said he was at work all day and she found sand in his shoe. So she's got this playing in the back of her mind, something.
Yeah. What's up with him? And is he always telling me the truth?
Pieces together, isn't she?
She is.
I think she's a little slow. But then we are back at the rom-com of the episode. Billy and Allison are each in their own closets to some of that great Melrose music we were talking about, throwing things on the bed, like, what should I wear? They're both like, what should I wear? What do I wear? It's a date. It's an actual date with my roommate.
And they're literally across the hall from each other.
And they're so across the hall.
But both getting ready.
Allison goes, oh, and she walks out and she knocks on his door. She goes, what are you wearing? What should I wear for tonight's date?
Yeah.
Like, is this fancy? Is this cash? And he's like, well, sexy but demure. He's very general. And she's like, oh, you're a lot of help. And he says, well, I want to be surprised when I pick you up.
And she goes, it sort of spoils the mystery when you have to wait for your date to finish clipping his toenails before you can put your makeup on, which is so true.
I think it's such a great line.
Mystery? It's so cute.
Disgusting and funny and very roommatey.
Hilarious.
The funny thing is that it goes on from there where she's saying, well, how do we keep the suspense? If I'm waiting for you to finish clipping your toenails, can I put your makeup? He's like, speaking of makeup, You might want to take it a little easy on the makeup because, it can tend to get heavy when you go out. I'm like,
She's like,
what?
what?
I know.
Yeah.
How
It
come
was
you didn't
such a
tell me
bizarre way
before?
to like have their first date.
It's a weird moment because they've turned a corner. And so now they're just saying stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, now that we're going to be together, like, by the way, you wear too much makeup when you go out.
Yeah.
Just like, excuse me, there may
Such a
not be
strange
a
thing.
date.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah,
continue.
it's not looking good. They're not handling any of this well.
So the cutest moment is when she goes, look, mister. And she walks right up to him. Where are you taking me? And then he's like, to the park for a jazz fest. And then she turns and she goes, oh, perfect. So she goes, I'll grab some jeans out of the dryer. And as she leaves, he goes, okay, I'm picking you up in 15 minutes. Like he's going to go outside and knock on the door of their apartment. Or does he knock on her bedroom door? I don't know, but it's hilarious. They're trying to like play real grown-ups on a date, but they're roommates. So hurry up, I'm picking you up in 15 minutes. Very cute scene. And as we said, she's going to go downstairs to the laundry room and get some dryers out of the dryer. So who does she run into there? Jane. She starts talking all of a sudden to Allison. They're like, hey, hey. And of course, we know that Allison has seen Michael kissing Kimberly in the last episode in the hospital parking lot. And all of a sudden, Jane's like talking about marriage and she's been thinking about it and, how old couples stay together. And it's just supposed to be hard in the first 2 years, which is what she's in. Um, but, we have our anniversary dinner and I'm excited about that. And she's like, okay, well, have a good anniversary dinner. Allison doesn't say anything.
Right. She has an opportunity and she doesn't take it
She
here.
doesn't take it.
And the other thing that like by now we've seen because Michael has gone to the hospital this day after he's finished shaving, whatever, and we've already seen, the audience has seen it, as is him arriving at the hospital and Kimberly greeting him in the parking lot and giving him a kiss. So by the time Jane and Allison see each other in the parking lot, or I mean in the laundry room, they've seen each other in the parking lot. For the audience that we've already seen him being deceitful again and like confirming that they're still doing this. They're kissing in the parking lot.
Yeah.
They're trying to, maybe make a plan when they can get together and Michael is revealing, well, hang on, it's, my anniversary, but maybe I can figure this out because,
Oof.
and
Only my anniversary, my 2-year anniversary.
it wasn't it just the last episode where she said, I'll have you any way I can. Like, I don't care. I know that you're married, but I just need to have you.
Yes,
Like
she's
you
flipping,
need to, yeah. So all of a
flip-flopping.
sudden now she's like, this is not good. I don't want to sneak around and this is not me. And she's mad. So when Jane and Allison see each other in the laundry room after that, it's even more like
That's right.
that Allison doesn't say something because we're definitely seeing that this affair is on.
Yes, which leads us to this next scene where they're actually Allison and Billy are on their date, and it's really now weighing on Allison's. Oh, she's so preoccupied with, do I tell? Because I just ran into Jane, and you're right, I've seen them early. What do
But
I
it's
do?
such a cute scene. Like they're sitting in this outside park. They've got a picnic, and it really is sweet and romantic. And I'm just screaming, "Shut up and kiss him!" Like, what are you? Blah blah
We
blah.
all are.
Jane and Michael.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Just stop it, Allison. He's got
And
this adorable boy. It's driving me because honestly, you guys know what it's like to be in a new relationship. All you want to do is make out. So the fact that she can't like it would be so far out of her mind. That's what's driving me crazy about this storyline.
Right,
It's like
right.
they have kissed. It was great. It was a sweet kiss. We saw it. So I feel like in reality, that would supersede all of this stuff. The fact that or unless, as to Laura's point, she's picking fights because she's scared. I'm going to use that as a way to make sense of it because maybe she keeps bringing this up because she's so scared about actually getting together with Billy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's crazy time.
well, it is. She's so preoccupied with it. She just can't get it out of her mind, which seems crazy at this moment for her relationship. But she does admit to Billy that she couldn't bring herself to tell Jane in the laundry room. Like she's honest about it. She's like, oh, that's bugging her that she hasn't been able to, come clean about it. And she feels really responsible for that.
And then Billy says it's almost like you don't want to move forward. And then she blames him and picks a fight and storms off.
Well, he says it's because I don't think you want to sleep with me, meaning moving forward. And she's like,
yes,
thanks. You like took out the romance of this
Yeah,
whole night.
like who took out the romance? Excuse me.
Right.
He did it first.
And he also says, hey, some relationships can survive this kind of thing, and which sort of rubs Allison wrong too. Like, wait a minute, are you defending him? Like, are you defending him? And they end up in this bickering that ruins their date, and they have to leave the park. Like, they just can't enjoy what was right in front of them.
This was a chance for them to get close and make out and feel like a date, and then it was thwarted, and they go off. They end the scene fighting.
Allison thwarts it.
Yeah.
Thwarts it. Anything to prevent his tongue from entering her mouth, I suppose.
Aw.
And
And he's so happy and so cute, and you're just like, I know. Well, so clearly not method acting there, right? And I think so. I have here the next morning, Allison comes into Billy's room in her iconic blue bathrobe with the stars on
Yeah,
it.
because she wants to be sexy, so she picks a big, huge, fluffy bath. Like, how many times did you walk into his room in a t-shirt and underwear? And now it's like, but today,
I know.
it really feels like she's trying to put distance. Maybe that's it. I'm going to give myself credit and say that's what I was playing.
Well,
Totally
you
did on
have a
purpose and
few
meant to do it.
years to. This character has, I don't know how long they end up staying together, but they can grow into it. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if it were me and I turned on my roommate, we started something, all the dolls would be gone from my shelves.
Exactly. The dolls shoved up. Because remember Allison with Keith? That episode, like, clearly she has a libido. They barely talked in that episode. Every scene they were making out. So why is she hiding that from Billy? Anyway, sorry.
Well, I think also it's an example of story that you just like, okay, that's what's in the script and that's what I have to play. It's for the sake of story, right? Like, and probably
they're trying to stretch it out, make it last as long as possible.
Yeah, they needed to get the conflict with Jane and Michael, and this and that worked into like Allison not having told, and so it had to become story. So all of a sudden you're playing something that's not necessarily,
believable.
Like organic or what you think, like this other story point. So give yourself a break.
Yeah, and it does, like, the audience was probably yelling at the TV too.
I was
that
just
is fun for the audience, right? Because you're just like, they're so close. Get on with it.
Yeah, like this is not supposed to be realistic. And the writers know when they want you to, they know they're manipulating the writers, just like us. We're all like, do it already.
Dragging it out.
And they're going to tune in next week to see if they do it. And they're going to turn the following week to see what happens.
So true.
Okay, but the conversation the next morning after this date was thwarted right? And then she comes out in her robe. The conversation in the kitchen is so funny.
In the bedroom.
In the bedroom.
Is it the bedroom? Okay.
In the bedroom.
Oh, yeah. And they're starting to compare what they were dreaming about.
That is so cute.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Flowers opening.
And Allison goes crashing waves. I know.
I was dreaming about waves crashing on the shore. And when Billy says flowers opening up, I'm like, oh, that must have been one of those things. Poor Andrew's like, I'm going to say this.
But then you have Allison who, has come in to apologize, and she's like, well, let's give it another try tonight. Let's stay in and have wine and pizza and maybe do the deed.
Can't possibly do it now. Both of us take my robe off. That couldn't possibly happen.
Yeah. Let's make a plan. Let's talk about it, and let's make a plan, and let's take all the sexiness out of the whole thing.
You know what our sex life needs? A plan.
Let's do it. Let's discuss it.
Well, but he's like, okay, take two. I'm in.
But they agree that it will be no talk of the neighbors this time. No talking about the neighbors.
He goes, I won't talk about the neighbors, I promise.
Okay, good plan.
Yo, K-pop fans, it's your boy Bomhan, and I'm bringing you something epic. Introducing the K Factor, the podcast that takes you straight into the heart of K-pop. We're talking music reviews, exclusive interviews, and deep dives into the industry like never before. From producers and choreographers to idols and trainees, we're bringing you the real stories behind the music that you love. And we're keeping it 100, discussing everything from comebacks and concepts to the mental health side of the business. Because K-pop isn't just a genre, it's a whole world, and we're exploring every corner of it. And here's the best part. Fans get to call in, drop opinions, and even join us live at events. You never know where we might pop up next. So listen to the K Factor on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. Are you ready Let's go.
The American West with Dan Flores is the latest show from the Meat Eater Podcast Network, hosted by me, writer and historian Dan Flores, and brought to you by Velvet Buck. This podcast looks at a West available nowhere else. Each episode, I'll be diving into some of the lesser-known histories of the West. I'll then be joined in conversation by guests such as Western historian Dr. Randall Williams and best-selling author and Meat Eater founder Stephen Ranella.
I'll correct my kids now and then where they'll say when cave people were here. And I'll say, it seems like the Ice Age people that were here didn't have a real affinity for caves. You know?
So join me starting Tuesday, May 6th, where we'll delve into stories of the West and come to understand how it helps inform the ways in which we experience the region today.
Listen to The American West with Dan Flores on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Your gut microbiome and those healthy bacteria can actually have positive effects throughout your body, not just your gut, but your mental health, your metabolism, your immunity, your risk of cancer, heart disease, almost any disease under the sun.
Yep, you heard right. Probiotics might actually impact everything from your brain to your heart.
So what's science and what's just really good marketing?
On this episode of Dope Labs, me and Zakia cut through the hype and get into the real deal behind probiotics, with help from gastroenterologist Dr. Roshi Raj.
So yes, bacteria is definitely having a moment, and I'm very excited about that.
From probiotic drinks and gummies to face creams and pillows. Yep, we said pillows. The probiotic boom is everywhere.
But how much of it actually works? And what does it all mean for your gut, your skin, and even your mood?
Join us on Dope Labs, where we break it all down in the lab like only we can.
Listen to Dope Labs on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Clayton English.
I'm Greg Lott.
And this is season 2 of the War on Drugs podcast.
Yes, sir. We are back.
In a big way.
In a very big way. Real people, real perspectives.
This is kind of star-studded a little bit, man. Yeah. We got Ricky Williams, NFL player, Heisman Trophy winner.
It's just the compassionate choice to allow players all reasonable means to care for themselves.
Right. Music stars, Marcus King, John Osborne from Brothers Osborne.
We have this misunderstanding of what this quote-unquote drug thing is.
Benny the Butcher.
Brent Smith from Shinedown.
Got Be Real from Cypress Hill.
NHL enforcer Riley Cote.
Marine Corps vet, MMA fighter, Liz Caramouche.
What we're doing now isn't working, and we need to change things.
Stories matter, and it brings a face to them.
It makes it real.
It really does. It makes it real.
Listen to new episodes of the War on Drugs podcast season 2 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear episodes 1 week early and ad-free with exclusive content, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
On November 5th, 2018, at 6:33 a.m., a red Volkswagen Golf was found abandoned in a ditch out in Sleep Hole Valley. The driver's seat door was open. No traces of footsteps leaving the vehicle. No belongings were found, except for a cassette tape lodged in the player. On that tape were 10 vile,
No! Ah!
grotesque,
Oh my God!
horrific stories that to this day have been kept restricted from the public until now. You feeling this too? A horror anthology podcast. Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We're at the beach with a big bed of lingerie models posing and lounging
on the sand.
Like, did they have to fill a beach day?
A four-poster bed.
Four-poster wooden bed and a bedside table. By the
dresser
way.
and 2 bedside tables, an entire bedroom set, the entire furniture for a bedroom on the sand.
Yeah, I remember shooting this. We did shoot this in Santa Monica, right? I think near the pier, but no one questioned it. I don't remember anyone going like, "Is this a weird setup?" It was just very 1993, like lingerie models on a 4-poster bed on the beach.
It was just another Tuesday.
It's just a
in Santa
catalog
Monica.
shoot. What's the issue?
Yeah, whatever.
So there, maybe, I think it was like a Victoria's Secrets type of thing or something. And we have one of the lead model is Karen, who's played by Vanessa Angel. And she and Joe are doing this banter. And I watched this a couple times and I'm like, there's all of this sort of like double entendres teasing, like between the two women, but she's saying Joe's like being all very, I guess I was doing what I thought photographers did, like, oh yeah, you're hot, baby. So good. Yeah, beautiful,
That is what they
gorgeous,
do.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, felt real to me.
Yeah, I didn't do a ton of research. I just did what I thought they did.
I
You
bought
had
it.
photo shoots, so that's what they do. They want you to feel good about yourself. There's crazy loud music.
Yeah,
you're saying you're beautiful, beautiful, great. You
Yeah,
look great. Arch your back.
good.
I was like,
Yeah.
yep, I've heard all of those.
Yeah, arch your back. That was a key
arch
one
your
for
back.
sure.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm
That's
saying.
what Billy should say to Allison to get things moving. I'm not.
You're beautiful. You're
arch
beautiful.
your back.
Drop that robe off your shoulder. Arch your back.
I know. I think
Shut your mouth.
Just arch your back. She's like, wait, what? Arch your back, Allison.
Stop talking.
I'm listening to you. You're saying very important things. Just arch your back. But Vanessa, my model, goes, yes, ma'am. It works for her. So she's like, you should go out with us tonight. So we're setting up that Joe's going to hang out with these models and the whole like fashion world gang that night. And yeah, so the very last thing is, hey, we're not done here. Get back on that bed. And Karen says, yes, ma'am. So little foreshadowing there, I think, little tease. Then we're in the opposite of that energy in the hospital changing room, where Kimberly now apologizes for getting so upset as she did earlier. And I think this is where he like is quietly says, I have a plan against the lockers. Cause for some reason, like 4 people come into the room in this small little room. And he's
Yep.
like,
And they're still going to have this conversation. Yeah.
Is this where he has the plan to, I
Yeah.
want you to beat me at my anniversary dinner?
Yeah.
Oh,
Beep. With
like,
the
I
pager.
don't
Yeah.
know. It's just, anyway, yeah, I had this anniversary dinner. I had this plan, wait for this certain time. They plan a time, and then I want you to beat me. And then I'm going to have to come into the hospital because I'm on call. And, and she's like, I feel so guilty though. You're at your dinner. And he's like, don't feel guilty. We're just being true to our feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
she
He's
seems
totally
conflicted.
entitled.
Like she's cold at first and she feels conflicted, but then in the end, she, like in this one, she said, all I've been thinking about is you, anniversary or not. Or he says that. He says, all I've been thinking about is you, anniversary or not. And then that sort of opens the door for her again. So
Yeah. He's so fine with it. Like like
He's
literally
fine with it.
interrupting his anniversary dinner to go spend the evening with her. And he says, there's nobody I'd rather spend the night with
Yeah.
than you.
Oh.
And just for people who don't understand what beeping is.
Yeah, pager.
Right. Pagers. We wore these little things that like you call the number and
it would beep.
it vibrates or beeps, and that's your beep. It tells
your
you have
belt
to
loop.
return the call to that phone number or whatever. So you're getting beeped.
It was
It's
high
not-
tech, by the
yeah.
way. You had
It
to be
was
an
very
important
high-tech
person
at the
to have a
time.
beeper
Yep.
or a pager.
Pager.
Then we cut to Allison and Amanda are arguing. Surprise, surprise.
We're at D&D.
At
They're
work. Yeah.
D&D. They're arguing in the open workspace. And Lucy walks up and says to Allison, I want you to come into my office. And then she tells her, look, you cannot keep arguing with Amanda in the workspace. You're coming to our work retreat and we're leaving tonight, which I thought was such
And
a...
Allison starts to say in grand Allison fashion, but I have a date. And then thank God she catches herself. I was like, could you please shut up?
She
You're
catches
at work.
herself.
She goes so far as to
Finally
almost
catches
say, with
herself.
Billy.
But I have plans. Oh, I'm
And then
going to
Lucy
Seattle
gives her
with
that
Billy.
look.
Oh, wait. Oh, my God.
But Lucy, it's only because Lucy gives her this look like, are you really wanting to finish the
Yes.
sentence,
Thank God
dumbass?
for Lucy.
Do you know,
Never
do you remember
forgiven
how many
Lucy.
times I had your back and you actually still have a job, you
Dumbass.
moron? And then she goes, oh yeah, no, tonight's perfect. I'm fine. I can
Yes.
go out to Palm Springs and start this work retreat, which she didn't know about a second
Yes.
earlier. So, yes, so she agrees you're going to come out to this workspace, this work retreat, and this is where we're going to work on conflict in the workspace. Then we cut to, we are in Shooters and Joe's surrounded by a few models and she's smoking with the models because again, in the 90s, this is what all the models did. Chain smoked. I
At
don't
the
know if
bar,
they do
inside.
now. Inside. Wild. So anyway, Karen, the lead model, is saying, I loved working with you, and no one's going to shoot me except for you here on out, and which is, a great thing for Joe to hear. And then Jake walks in, and they're all so impressed. Wow,
They are. They super
nice.
admiring of him. Well played, Joe.
Which is very good coming from these beautiful models. So he's got his arm around Joe, and he's like, "Hey, you should come out with us tonight." And he's like, "Well, I can't go." And he's like, "Joe, you've been smoking."
No, because he has a very realistic bike repair emergency.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
There was an emergency bike repair that came in, so I can't possibly
Couldn't possibly
go out with
go
these
out
gorgeous
with
women.
four beautiful women.
The
Yeah,
very
couldn't do
realistic,
that.
because you know how that happens. It's the same thing as being beeped as a doctor, but except that it's a motorcycle that needs emergency repair.
Why do I
An
know that
emergency.
Grant totally had this script and went up to the writers and go, "Are you an idiot? Why would I not go out with these people?
Yeah.
These
Although-
models make how do I say this with a straight face?"
Although I thought he did a good job in this scene playing the part where he's supposed to be a little bit wary of this sort of dynamic with these models who
and who
are
I am
just,
around them.
Yeah, like that seems a little bit suspect about like, is this a good idea? So I thought he did a good job playing that note
Yeah.
in this scene that sets
Yeah,
up. the
He
next.
did, and I think he was sort of annoyed. Like, I think he was like, he didn't want to hang out with Joe with those people because he didn't like who Joe was with.
Yeah, well,
he didn't
he didn't like what he saw necessarily.
Yeah,
right.
walking
And she's
into
like, "Come
so
on,
maybe
we're
are
going
you saying it wasn't an emergency bike repair, Laura?
I'm not going to go that
Might be just
far.
a-
I think still
Wow.
an emergency
an
bike repair is a
excuse.
very realistic thing on Melrose Place. So.
And Joe
be
is
both.
different. You can tell that she's acting differently besides the smoking. She's all, she's like, "We're going to this place called the Black Hole with heavy metal and sing-alongs."
And
Yes,
maybe
sing along
some-
heavy metal. That was
Yeah.
funny.
So Jake was like, "Okay, I'm not going." That doesn't sound appealing to him. But he's a supportive of her going out with the girls. But he's a little bit like, "Who's that?" They leave, right? And then he's sitting there just kind of going like, "Okay." Which, I think I don't know about you guys, but there's another kind of interesting thing is like, how much do you have of your own social life when you're married or when you're with someone and you live together? And does each person go out and have their, continue with these friendships that they each knew before they got together?
Absolutely.
Or do you kind of fold into this like, oh, I mean, I would hope you have permission. You don't need permission, but I'm
Right.
just.
And
I know
and
for
Jake
me-
and Joe don't live together. In fact, he even says, "Hey, if it's not too late, swing by my place when
Yeah.
you get home. If it's not too late."
Right.
Like, yeah.
They have a very healthy, I mean, comparatively speaking to the other folks in the building, they have a very healthy relationship, I think.
Yeah, granted, it's a very low bar,
Yeah.
but
So a very low bar.
Yeah, so far.
So we leave the shooters and we are at the anniversary dinner that we've been hearing so much about. They are there and enjoying champagne, and we hear that appropriate music. And you're just wishing as you're watching this going, "Oh, I just wish this would last, like, can we just cut the lines that are coming and have the two of them enjoy their anniversary dinner?" But no.
well, especially because Jane is so vulnerable and she's saying, she feels down because she misses him. And we're just like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so
it's
sweet.
It's like she's trying to get him to admit something, and she's not coming out and saying, "I feel like something might be going on." She's really just saying, "I feel lonely."
I
And he
don't
doesn't
know
take
that she's
any
suspect at this point, to be
Well,
honest.
I feel like
I
she
don't know that
has
she
questioned
suspects.
like why is he not at work when he says he's going to be at work? There's enough for her to feel like insecure and questioning. But he is so confident and good at lying. He just doesn't even blink about anybody. He's like, "No, no, honey, I love you." And like all the
Yeah.
stuff, he's so good at faking.
Well, he
here.
says she said, "I feel like the hospital seems to be taking you away from us." And he's like, "Well, that's the price I pay, sweetie." So it's like, this is what you signed up for. I can't help it type of thing. Yeah. He's a primo master gaslighter, which we will see later. This is just his go-to for sure. But they're there, and then the guy comes up for dessert, and she's like, "No, I just want coffee." He's like, for some reason, he says, "No, have something fattening. You deserve it." I didn't get that line. I didn't know why that was placed there, but she's like, "Well, okay, I guess I'll get chocolate." But then the beeper goes off, and you, the audience, are just like, "No," because we know who it is. And so he leaves, and she gets the check.
Yeah.
I'm like,
He leaves the table to go return the call. "I'm really sorry."
Yes.
And he gets up and walks out.
She's like, check, please.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah, very divorce already. We don't even need to see anymore as far as I'm concerned. It's done. So we move off of her. She's upset and sad. And then we come to Allison is leaving the apartment and Billy's being such a sport about it, and she's like, I'm so sorry. We're not going to have our pizza date.
And this is one of those
like,
scenes
well, we've
when
been
Allison
waiting.
comes out in her voluminous pleated pants, which are a favorite of mine.
We know
I have no idea why.
You're not a fan of pleated pants.
The voluminous pants and the huge jacket. It looks like I'm trying to hide a pregnancy. What is happening?
It was the style.
Oh my word.
I don't know.
Anyway,
You're like, I mean, if you'd walked out in a tight black dress, that would have been like such a bummer for him. So hi, bye, I'm leaving. Everyone else is going to see me like this.
Anyway, I just, the
but
dichotomy
he's being
between
such a sport. He's like, well, we've waited this long. We can wait a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So he leaves to go to this retreat.
But then there's this little like kiss on the forehead. I'm like,
yeah,
where is the kiss that's like the promise of things to come, right? All of a sudden, they really seem like cousins. It's the weirdest thing to
kissing
me.
And not even kissing cousins.
Yeah.
Not even kissing cousins, like a kiss on the
pecking
forehead.
cousins.
Seriously?
Like they really don't know how to transition from just being
Friends.
roommates.
Well, that's
to
what I was gonna go.
This new
Well, then
relationship.
don't kiss. Then don't kiss at all. The kiss on the forehead is so chaste.
But Allison leaves, and then she bumps into Jane
in the courtyard.
In the courtyard, who Jane's coming home from her aborted anniversary dinner, very down.
It's at night.
It's after the dinner, and it's at night, and she's so bummed, but she's again sort of making excuses about it. Oh well, it just hurts. That's all. And then Allison finally says, "Jane, I have to tell you something."
And she decides she's racing off to a business dinner. It's like talk about like just a hit and run. She tells her. Jane has the horrible reaction we all dread.
Horrible. Immediately turns
it
it on.
But then Allison goes, listen, I got to run. Here's the hotel where I'm staying. Like, what a weird.
I don't know. It made sense to me though, that she's like, I can't hold this any longer. I have to tell you
made
this.
sense
This
to me
is awful.
too.
Like, I need to tell you this, but Jane is so immediately doubting the truth of what Allison's saying. She's like, that can't possibly be true. I'm sure you must have misunderstood. You don't know what you were seeing. She completely thinks everything that Allison is saying is total crap, and she's angry.
Yeah. She
and
says,
it's exactly
I've never heard
what
such crap. Basically, you are lying. Not even like, are you sure?
Exactly
even
what
with her own
you'd
doubts
fear.
in her head, with having the sand having come out of the sneaker last episode, she still is like, I was shocked. I was surprised at how vehemently she pushed back and attacked Allison.
Absolutely didn't want to believe it or hear it, even though she's been like sort of kind of, I think, questioning it and doubting it herself. Like when she actually heard it, she immediately lashed out at Allison.
And
instead.
I think that's what it is, Laura. When she actually heard it, like heard her fears voiced, it was too scary to process. Because I thought Josie did a great job of like that shift of just immediately getting defensive and putting it on Allison because she couldn't take it in. Even though she's having her own doubts, she couldn't take it in.
Yeah.
So now we are this is a funny scene. We are in the hotel in the desert at the work retreat, and Allison and Amanda have to be roommates, which is hilarious. And they're, Amanda's like, I can't believe it. I'm supposed to get my own room. And they have this wonderful banter. Amanda's taking out all her clothes, and Allison's like, oh my God, where are you going to wear all that? Aren't they there? And she's like, Amanda has some great lines. So, she's like, well, I've never believed in the virtue of packing lightly, or maybe I just don't have your flair for making one outfit work 3 different ways.
Do you remember those articles at the time that were in every fashion magazine? Like how to make this work 3 different ways.
Yes.
That's what that reminded me of. I don't know if they still do that, but it used to be in every magazine. And then Amanda puts her stuff away and she says to Allison, feel free to borrow anything you can squeeze into.
Yeah.
But that's and feel free to borrow my voluminous pantaloons.
But that's after.
She should have just held
I
it
wish
up.
she'd said
Feel
that.
free to borrow these if you want to.
You can make 2 dresses out of my pants.
Sure. Do you want to try my boxy jacket?
I have some shoulder pads for you on our retreat in Palm Springs.
But it's also like just after they decided, you know what, this like fighting and we sound like a couple of high school girls that we just need to figure out a way to get along. Okay, can we just agree to bury the hatchet? And they agree. And then is Amanda's line, feel free to borrow anything you can squeeze into. Nice little smile.
Yeah, so much for burying the
Yeah.
hatchet. But they agree to kind of get along for this weekend. At least they're going to try, right? Anyway, she leaves as she throws that one-liner at you. And then Allison's like, thanks. You know, like she knows she got one in on her and this is not going to bury any hatchet. Anyway, Michael comes home close to just before 6 a.m. and Jane has been awake. She's sitting in her bed with, tea or coffee, and she's just all by herself, waiting up. And she comes out into the kitchen and it was like, what, you took so long, and what happened? And whoa,
And he gives her this icky kiss, like this kiss on her cheek. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Oh,
and I'm like, we know where your mouth has just been, you disgusting,
Yes.
horrible.
And he's totally fine being that guy.
He's totally fine.
Yes.
And this is a scene where he becomes a master gaslighter, like the
Yes.
actual movie where Gaslight, that black and white movie where he just makes her think like she's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because she says, I miss you. You seem to have been on call an awful lot, and I really miss you. And she comes right out and asks him,
she says,
are you having an affair?
Yeah. And then he laughs.
And he goes, what? Where's that coming from?
Of course
You
not.
crazy
What would make you
person.
say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
And immediately you turn it around and you make them feel ridiculed and like they're idiots. And that's what he's doing. He goes, what made you say this? So I think that's where Jane says, well, Allison told me.
Well, yeah, exactly. She gives the examples that, well, I called the hospital. You were supposed to be there and you weren't. And also the sand in your shoes. And he laughs at that. Like, oh, that's nothing.
So kill me. So sue me. Kind of thing.
So I've spent my lunch at the beach. Sorry,
Yeah.
And then that's when she starts to say that Allison, told her something that she saw. And he finishes her sentence, like blows her off and complete the gaslighting, like you're saying.
And then goes to blame it on another person, which would be Allison. She's like, well, why would she lie to me? And he says, well, you remember that of her thing with that married man? Well, now she wants to hurt you by breaking us up because she's telling you I'm having an affair. He just deflects and blames, and she's so confused. You just watch her go, oh, who do I believe? And he goes, honey, you believe me, don't you? And he comes up and he's being so sweet. And
of course she wants to believe him so much, right?
Yes.
Of course she does.
So then she takes his head. He's like, puts his head down vulnerably, right? Like, I'm just a innocent little boy. Don't you believe me? Nuzzles his head into her neck. So her arms go around his head as a tear falls down her face. And you're just like, so not only that gaslighting, then he becomes this vulnerable, wounded animal, and she's supposed to now take care of him. And I just drove me crazy, but the writers are very good at it. And Michael's.
Yeah, but he definitely painted a picture that Allison is just gossiping and she completely made this story up. And there's it's how horrible of her to be such a bad friend. And so he just completely wrote a different story for Jane and made Allison the bad guy.
Back at the retreat, Lucy's talking to everyone. The boss of everyone, Lucy, of course, says, we're going to do some role playing. So this is one of the exercises.
And didn't this strike fear in your heart? Like, of everything you've ever been to like this, and you say, we're going to break into small groups. Didn't your heart just sink?
Well, and role playing.
That moment.
Role playing of all things. Not like trust exercises or something, but role playing.
All of them are awful.
But immediately Amanda's reaction is like, I'm going out for a coffee or something. She goes to leave and Allison's like, what do you mean? I think we should play this. And Amanda's walking out to avoid the whole thing. And Allison follows her and starts role playing as she's following her, acting, saying things that Amanda has said.
Amanda
totally
bitchy.
Yeah. Oh, Allison, this work is horrible. It's so slipshod. You put no work and effort into it. And then Amanda she turns around. She's got her attention. And she's like, what? Oh, and they start going into it. What was Amanda saying as Allison? Let's see. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was really wonderful back and forth. I thought you guys did that. It was so fun. It was just this role-playing moment.
She was also like, I am not that bad. I'm not that hard on you. And
Yeah.
Allison's like, oh, yes, you are. And whatever, they're trying to be.
Well, and then Amanda gets vulnerable and says, well, look what happened. Like, I asked you if I could date Billy. You said yes. And just when I start to get attached to him, we start having a relationship, you come back. And I'd never, maybe it's my own point of view. I should ask you guys because you're a little more objective. I never really bought that it was a real relationship, but maybe it was. Did you feel like Amanda really cared about Billy and was really hurt when it ended? Because I never gave it any credence, but again, not objective.
I think that's a fair question. And I think that this episode, to Heather's credit, like I think she really sold that part of the story, that like we believe it. Like, oh, she really did have feeling, or I believe it here. Like, even if it seemed like a fleeting moment at the time, like, oh, it was just a blip and it's over so fast. She actually is saying, listen, look at it from my point of view. I don't trust you. And you're so competitive with me.
So excuse me, but I don't trust you at all.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, Courtney. Like, this is the first time. And listen, this happens in episodes. Like maybe the writers didn't do that relationship justice, right? Like it did seem sort of like about a chair and they just didn't get on. There was humor in it and it was short.
It was just short.
We are seeing the heart that Amanda really felt about it. And I love this. I love that side of her. And, but before she gets all vulnerable and honest, she said, I don't know. There's something that Allison says as Amanda. I mean, look at those shoes. Who taught you to dress? Barbara Bush. Sorry, I just had to get that in because Allison does have some pretty clunky shoes, I've noticed, but
really clunky.
It was the 90s. It was, who knows? And then we are at the park with Jake and Billy kicking around a soccer ball. And Billy's like going on about how we were supposed to get together and we were supposed to have a date, but it didn't work. So
well, they're not really kicking the soccer ball because Jake is walking in his jeans and Andrew's like knees, head, neck, like he's playing
he's
soccer.
Juggling.
So
yeah.
It's like Jake brought his son to the park to play with the soccer ball.
Yeah.
It's adorable, right? Because it's a true skill Andrew has, but I thought they wanted to like work in the soccer.
Yeah, I love when they worked it in because they're taking advantage of something that Andrew can do and not not anybody else on the show. And it's like
played professional soccer.
Yeah. And it also gives us the impression that like Billy can't sit still.
Oh, that's
like
adorable.
He has to be like, bouncing ball around.
Which he's very much like. Yeah, it's very good for his character.
And it's funny because Jake is like, you haven't slept together. And it made me remember the beginning of Jake and Joe and you guys were all over each other, which is what I want for Billy and Allison. So Jake is like, what do you just kiss her? Like, you idiot. What do you do? What are you waiting for? Because he's saying you're going to miss the window. Right. And you guys are going to go right back into being friends. And I'm so glad somebody is saying that to one of them.
Yeah. Don't make such plans.
Billy says
we're making plans.
We had second plans for tonight. And he's like, well, what happened? Well, she's out at a retreat in the desert. And I think Jake is like, well, go get her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to think about it too much because then we'll both get scared. So he's like, well, can I borrow your motorcycle?
Absolutely
like,
not.
I'll give you a rental. I'll give you a used one from the shop.
Yeah.
Yo, K-pop fans, it's your boy Bomhan, and I'm bringing you something epic. Introducing the K Factor, the podcast that takes you straight into the heart of K-pop. We're talking music reviews, exclusive interviews, and deep dives into the industry like never before. From producers and choreographers to idols and trainees, we're bringing you the real stories behind the music that you love. And yeah, we're keeping it 100, discussing everything from comebacks and concepts to the mental health side of the business. Because K-pop isn't just a genre, it's a whole world, and we're exploring every corner of it. And here's the best part. Fans get to call in, drop opinions, and even join us live at events. You never know where we might pop up next. So listen to the K Factor on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. Are you ready? Let's go.
The American West with Dan Flores is the latest show from the Meat Eater Podcast Network, hosted by me, writer and historian Dan Flores, and brought to you by Velvet Buck. This podcast looks at a West available nowhere else. Each episode, I'll be diving into some of the lesser-known histories of the West. I'll then be joined in conversation by guests such as Western historian Dr. Randall Williams and best-selling author and Meat Eater founder Stephen Ranella.
I'll correct my kids now and then where they'll say when cave people were here. And I'll say, it seems like the Ice Age people that were here didn't have a real affinity for caves. You know?
So join me starting Tuesday, May 6th, where we'll delve into stories of the West and come to understand how it helps inform the ways in which we experience the region today.
Listen to The American West with Dan Flores on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Your gut microbiome and those healthy bacteria can actually have positive effects throughout your body, not just your gut, but your mental health, your metabolism, your immunity, your risk of cancer, heart disease, almost any disease under the sun.
Yep, you heard right. Probiotics might actually impact everything from your brain to your heart.
So what's science and what's just really good marketing?
On this episode of Dope Labs, me and Zakia cut through the hype and get into the real deal behind probiotics, with help from gastroenterologist Dr. Roshi Raj.
So yes, bacteria is definitely having a moment, and I'm very excited about that.
From probiotic drinks and gummies to face creams and pillows. Yep, we said pillows. The probiotic boom is everywhere.
But how much of it actually works? And what does it all mean for your gut, your skin, and even your mood?
Join us on Dope Labs, where we break it all down in the lab like only we can.
Listen to Dope Labs on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Clayton English.
I'm Greg Lott.
And this is season 2 of the War on Drugs podcast.
Yes, sir. We are back.
In a big way.
In a very big way. Real people, real perspectives.
This is kind of star-studded a little bit, man. Yeah. We got Ricky Williams, NFL player, Heisman Trophy winner.
It's just the compassionate choice to allow players all reasonable means to care for themselves.
Right. Music stars, Marcus King, John Osborne from Brothers Osborne.
We have this misunderstanding of what this quote-unquote drug thing is.
Benny the Butcher.
Brent Smith from Shinedown.
Got Be Real from Cypress Hill.
NHL enforcer Riley Cote.
Marine Corps vet, MMA fighter, Liz Caramouche.
What we're doing now isn't working, and we need to change things.
Stories matter, and it brings a face to them.
It makes it real.
It really does. It makes it real.
Listen to new episodes of the War on Drugs podcast season 2 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear episodes 1 week early and ad-free with exclusive content, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
On November 5th, 2018, at 6:33 a.m., a red Volkswagen Golf was found abandoned in a ditch out in Sleep Hole Valley. The driver's seat door was open. No traces of footsteps leaving the vehicle. No belongings were found, except for a cassette tape lodged in the player. On that tape were 10 vile,
No! Ah!
grotesque,
Oh my God!
horrific stories that to this day have been kept restricted from the public. Until now. You feeling this too? A horror anthology podcast. Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And then we're into Allison apologizing to Amanda, which was really good. She met her there at that honesty and said, I'm really sorry for how all this happened. I didn't plan it that way, and can we be friends, at least for now?
Yeah, it was a sweet moment. It felt like there could be real progress in their friendship for a minute.
For a second.
Mm-hmm.
So that friends is about to end because Billy comes into the lobby. Nobody sees him yet, but he's like, I need to talk to Allison. They're in this retreat.
But he's wearing his biker gear because he's taken this motorcycle to the retreat. So he's wearing biker gear when he comes up to the counter.
Yeah. And he puts his helmet down and says, well, can I get a note in there? And he writes this note And he says, can you someone please take this into there since she can't come out.
Take it
She's
into the beautiful blonde. And we're like,
Yeah,
what could possibly go wrong?
Yep. We know
Well,
exactly what's
I mean,
going to
even
happen.
those two, but there's got to be other extras that were beautiful blondes too, I'm sure.
It's California. There's only 2.
Yeah. Amanda and Allison. So of course, so much for their friendship. Amanda, of course, intercepts the note and
because the valet guy picks the wrong beautiful blonde.
and says,
right,
but
hands her
asks,
the note. Yeah.
are you Allison Parker? No, but I can take this to her. Then reads the note, and it says in excellent handwriting, I might add, that Billy has. Oh my God. I couldn't wait. I'm in the lobby, Billy. And so she goes out to find Billy and says that you can't see her. Lucy's not letting her go. She's on probation. Lucy's got her.
She
cornered.
lies.
That's why, totally lying. That's why I'm
Didn't that
here.
make you think of Animal House and super secret probation? And double super secret probation. Did it make you think of that? That's what I thought of.
I love it. I will now, but I didn't then.
Yeah. So, so that's that. She makes sure that Billy can't see Allison. And
but lies and says that it was that Allison says she's too busy. Like
it's all a lie.
Yep.
And just literally 30 seconds before she's saying, yeah, let's be friends. There's like this honest moment. So these people just can't be friends no matter what. No one can keep up a let's bury the hatchet deal. And then we are at Jake's and Joe comes flying in the door. She's so excited about her night out with the model girls last night and all the fashion people. And she says,
and at first I thought it was the night of the party because she seems sort of buzzed because she's so excited. Then I realized it's the next night.
It's the next day.
Did Joe go the entire day without checking in? Because he said, come by after the party. So
and
clearly
I don't think
Joe not only didn't come by after the party, she didn't come by until the next night. And she's got sort of manic, excited energy.
Right. Like she's just now getting back from the whole, shenanigans.
That's a
with the
lot of
models or
time to
something.
go between contact.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you because I'll just tell you what happened to Joe. She got in at 5 a.m. and she just took her Advil and Excedrin PM and slept all and then wanted to get all refreshed and probably had brunch with the girls maybe. And then she finally came up to
She
my
definitely
boyfriend.
has a lot of confidence about how that might have gone.
I know exactly how
I
it
feel like
went.
that's a very familiar scenario.
There was some research in the 80s, I must say. So I know
Right,
exactly
that's
what Joe did.
I appreciate your
Joe
insight.
comes bounding in and goes and takes I think the last beer out of the fridge. And Jake is not
totally
amused.
oblivious. It's that thing with when you meet new people and you meet a whole vibe, and hers is going to possibly lead to a whole career in the fashion world, so it's very exciting to her. It doesn't have to do with her boyfriend and the apartment and struggling and stuff. It's just very exciting for her. So she's not doesn't even notice that she takes the last beer. And
she wants to tell Jake all about
at least
this
she's not
opportunity
smoking
she has.
she comes in.
How she met this video editor who wants to hire her too. Now she's going to have all these job opportunities and she's just so happy to share it with them. And she notices that he's not very excited to be hearing about this. Like, why? You don't look happy for me.
And he's like, oh, well, yeah, no. And then he'll like better his response later because he'll realize that he could have been a little more excited for me.
Yeah. Well, Jake isn't though, because he doesn't like the people. And
this is where he tells her that.
But
Yeah.
by saying, well, maybe they're not as sophisticated as the grease monkeys.
I
you work
love
with.
that
I was
line.
like,
Yeah.
Whoa.
Maybe they're not as sophisticated and well-rounded as the grease monkeys you work with.
Yeah. It turns into an argument that's like Joe is not very nice in her retaliation in
this
that
must
moment.
carry on in another episode because it's just sort of dropped and
It
left.
does.
So this must
Right.
be a storyline that carries on.
Yeah.
But, again, we have this happy couple, but it's Melrose Place. So we're going to start the scene happy and end it with the fight. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So she's like, no. And then she turns it into all of a sudden, you're just not happy for my success. And, so screw you, I'm out. He's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, I'm gone. And she just leaves like she does so many times before. And then we are in Jane and Michael's apartment, and Jane comes into a dark apartment. Nobody's there, and she's calling, and and she's like, Michael? Of course, he's not there. So she calls the hospital, and she's expected, to find him there. And the receptionist says, well, he's on break till 11. And she immediately is like, well, it's in a family emergency. Can you please give me Kimberly Shaw's address or phone number? And she's like, no, we can't give that out. And she's like, well, it's in a family emergency and they're working on a project together and I need to speak with him. So she is like, no more Miss Nice Guy. You know what I mean? She's just doing what she can and lying and manipulating, and she's going to get that address. And
Well, but doesn't the scene end where she just has to tell the nurse to just leave a message for the hospital to page
him,
Michael?
yeah.
And that's how they leave it. Like,
yeah, but she's gotten the address.
Well, she hasn't gotten it. They
she
said
has
they can't
not
give it to
gotten
her.
the address. That's what's confusing because
they say they can't give it to her.
Back at the hotel in Palm Springs, and Allison and Amanda are laughing and having a good time, which is also always
And
good.
Heather told a story that I promise you she
made up.
She improvised, which is, and then he threw up in the hot tub. And I was like, that is a Heather line, and that's probably a true story.
That's such a Heather improv.
That was the
Such a
way
Heather
in. Yeah,
improv. We have to
This is
ask her.
gonna make
In
each other laugh.
1993, yeah, that was
Heather.
Heather.
Yeah,
that's amazing. You're right. I remember that improv.
Yo, K-pop fans, it's your boy Bomhan, and I'm bringing you something epic. Introducing the K Factor, the podcast that takes you straight into the heart of K-pop. We're talking music reviews, exclusive interviews, and deep dives into the industry like never before. From producers and choreographers to idols and trainees, we're bringing you the real stories behind the music that you love. And yeah, we're keeping it 100, discussing everything from comebacks and concepts to the mental health side of the business. Because K-pop isn't just a genre, it's a whole world, and we're exploring every corner of it. And here's the best part. Fans get to call in, drop opinions, and even join us live at events. You never know where we might pop up next. So listen to the K Factor on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. Are you ready? Let's go.
The American West with Dan Flores is the latest show from the Meat Eater Podcast Network, hosted by me, writer and historian Dan Flores, and brought to you by Velvet Buck. This podcast looks at a West available nowhere else. Each episode, I'll be diving into some of the lesser-known histories of the West. I'll then be joined in conversation by guests such as Western historian Dr. Randall Williams and best-selling author and Meat Eater founder Stephen Ranella.
I'll correct my kids now and then where they'll say when cave people were here. And I'll say, it seems like the Ice Age people that were here didn't have a real affinity for caves. You know?
So join me starting Tuesday, May 6th, where we'll delve into stories of the West and come to understand how it helps inform the ways in which we experience the region today.
Listen to The American West with Dan Flores on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Your gut microbiome and those healthy bacteria can actually have positive effects throughout your body, not just your gut, but your mental health, your metabolism, your immunity, your risk of cancer, heart disease, almost any disease under the sun.
Yep, you heard right. Probiotics might actually impact everything from your brain to your heart.
So what's science and what's just really good marketing?
On this episode of Dope Labs, me and Zakia cut through the hype and get into the real deal behind probiotics, with help from gastroenterologist Dr. Roshi Raj.
So yes, bacteria is definitely having a moment, and I'm very excited about that.
From probiotic drinks and gummies to face creams and pillows. Yep, we said pillows. The probiotic boom is everywhere.
But how much of it actually works? And what does it all mean for your gut, your skin, and even your mood?
Join us on Dope Labs, where we break it all down in the lab like only we can.
Listen to Dope Labs on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Clayton English.
I'm Greg Lott.
And this is season 2 of the War on Drugs podcast.
Yes, sir. We are back.
In a big way.
In a very big way. Real people, real perspectives.
This is kind of star-studded a little bit, man. Yeah. We got Ricky Williams, NFL player, Heisman Trophy winner.
It's just the compassionate choice to allow players all reasonable means to care for themselves.
Right. Music stars, Marcus King, John Osborne from Brothers Osborne.
We have this misunderstanding of what this quote-unquote drug thing is.
Benny the Butcher.
Brent Smith from Shinedown.
Got Be Real from Cypress Hill.
NHL enforcer Riley Cote.
Marine Corps vet, MMA fighter, Liz Caramouche.
What we're doing now isn't working, and we need to change things.
Stories matter, and it brings a face to them.
It makes it real.
It really does. It makes it real.
Listen to new episodes of the War on Drugs podcast season 2 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear episodes 1 week early and ad-free with exclusive content, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
In 2020, a group of young women in a tidy suburb of New York City found themselves in an AI-fueled nightmare.
Someone was posting photos. It was just me naked. Well, not me, but me with someone else's body parts on my body parts that looked exactly like my own.
I wanted to throw up. I wanted to scream.
It happened in Levittown, New York.
But reporting this series took us through the darkest corners of the internet and to the front lines of a global battle against deepfake pornography.
This should be illegal, but what is this?
This is a story about a technology that's moving faster than the law and about vigilantes trying to stem the tide. I'm Margie Murphy.
And I'm Olivia Carville.
This is Levittown, a new podcast from iHeart Podcasts, Bloomberg, and Kaleidoscope.
Listen to Levittown on Bloomberg's Big Take podcast. Find it on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
But conveniently, Lucy comes to the table, is so happy to see them like laughing together. And she's like, I need throat lozenges. Allison offers to go out to the parking lot to Lucy's car to get these throat lozenges for Lucy, which we all know where this is going to go. And sure enough, that's where she goes out to the parking lot and Billy is still in the parking lot getting ready to leave on the bike. And
which luckily has broken down. One wonders if it was the emergency bike repair.
Maybe this was the bike
previous
that needed emergency.
Well, what's interesting is that he's trying to do it with the Kickstarter, but he doesn't know. That's the thing. So he's really just flooding the damn thing. But some bikes you start like that with your foot.
Yeah, Laura and I totally caught that. Laura and I both totally caught that. So that was obvious.
So the valet guy just comes and pushes the button. It's hilarious. It starts right away. But you're right. It's given us time to have Allison walk up and go, Billy, what are you doing here? What? She's happy, which I was so happy that she was happy. Yeah, I'm leaving. And she's like, what do you mean? What message? Well, you didn't want me here. I didn't even know you were here. Amanda. Oh, that's right. Amanda. Yeah. Amanda always lies and always is in the middle of things. So they figure it out. And Billy goes, I have an idea. I'm going to get a room. And then when you've done your retreat thing, you come join me. When you finish your party, because there's going to be a cocktail party or something. And Allison goes, what party? She's finally excited to go spend the night with him in this hotel. So he's going to go.
And then they kiss. And I put in my notes, way too chastely. Because I'm
well, again, they're still making a plan. At this point, they're still in planning mode.
Yeah. They're at a hotel now, making a plan at a hotel.
Yes.
The plan is I'm going to go get a room.
Here's the plan.
Now, when has there ever been an extra room if there's a corporate retreat going on? I don't know. But in this little apartment, in this little hotel.
You got a really nice room too. But first, we have to find Jane walking through the hallway of Kimberly's apartment, which we have no idea how she got the address.
Well, I think the lady gave it to her, but whatever.
You're probably right, Daphne.
Theories abound.
Yeah. She worked it out.
So she's walking down this hallway and she's just got this. She's nervous, but she knows where she's going and she knocks and you hear from inside, yeah, who is it? And she says, Jane. And then they cut to inside and it's Kimberly making dinner or salad or something. And she doesn't have a reaction like, oh, shit.
No, she sort of calmly answers the door.
Like, oh, hey, Jane, what can I do for you? She's so calm. She's like, she and Michael are made from the same cloth. She's like, oh, what can I do for you? She's like, well, is my husband here? No, of course not. Well, he's supposed to be on break and he's not at the hospital. And, oh, maybe it's that crappy coffee shop near the hospital that we all have to go to. And right then we hear and see Michael walk in behind her.
In a towel.
Kimberly.
Only a towel.
Yeah, in a towel.
For the second time this episode.
Yeah.
And he just stops in his tracks and he sees Jane's face at the door and everybody just is
busted.
Stunned.
And we're finally thrilled.
Finally, Jane says, thank you. That's all I needed to know.
That's all I needed.
But didn't you wonder, we talked about how casual Kimberly was. She could have said, Michael, it's Jane, stay hidden. I wondered if it was sort of Machiavellian.
Or she could have come
She
out
was
in the
answering
hallway.
the door because then they'd be found out. I think that maybe she meant to. Kimberly meant for them to be found out. I do. I think so.
No.
How could she not say Michael? Jane's, because it's not like there's a knock on the door and she opens it. She knows it's Jane, but she doesn't say to him, it's Jane, hide. She opens the door, takes all the time.
Once they, I don't know why she.
Because she wants to be found out so she can have Michael, because that blows up their marriage.
Well, it's definitely blowing up here.
It's definitely blowing up.
Jane leaves and he runs out after her in his towel, trying to keep it on as he's running. Like, wait, Michael, wait, Jane. Oh, it's just so.
And Kimberly looks very annoyed that he ran after her. That was not in her master plan.
No.
But back at the hotel where Billy and Allison's plan is finally coming to fruition.
With beautifully romantic.
They're planning to make another plan.
Curtains.
Let's discuss this a little further.
No, it's
in a
happening.
romantic
There's
room.
a pink rose on the bed.
But they do discuss it a little further because Allison says, "Can I tell you something?" And it's like, "Oh, for the love of God, can you shut?"
Yeah.
Oh, she did? What did she say?
She does. She says, "I'm nervous," which is very sweet. And then he says,
Oh,
she
that's
says, "Are you
normal."
nervous?" He said, "I'm excited."
Yeah.
That was adorable.
Yeah.
And then he puts her purse on a chair.
He still has to like take her purse off of her shoulder. Like, it's okay. Like, enter this room and let's, it's very slow, very like,
So
yeah.
this is where I did think, because maybe this is, you know, being against Joe and Jake. We're so hot and sexy. Maybe the point is that this is sweet because it was so sweet and slow. And then, did you notice the music? Take me to an everlasting love. And I assumed, Laura, it was the time, but maybe right there. But it was so like endless lovey, the song.
Yeah. Well, it's maybe the longest love scene montage we will ever see in the history of Melrose, because I thought it was really long. I thought it was lovely.
Didn't feel long to me. I thought it was perfect length.
I thought it was.
You guys were like, it was endless.
No, but it wasn't
back
even you
and
guys
forth.
making out. It was like close up on the shoes coming up, close up on this, and we all know with
They
love
really
scenes,
wanted to
it's
make it last.
Right.
It's very like stop and go, and they want all these other shots, and it's not as like this smooth, ongoing, lovely thing that's fun to do. It's very stop and go.
Yeah, it was the pieces
But-
of the clothing coming off,
Coming
and then
off.
some more kissing, and then another article of clothing and more
And then
kissing.
you
I
guys
thought it
on the
was
bed. Yeah.
lovely, and like they
It was great.
they really
And that
It was
music
sweet.
came
And
up
then at the end, we're
loud.
lying on the bed, and Andrew comes down on top of me. And then I was like, "Oh, I stroked his back for America." Like I was saying,
that was for America. That was so nice.
I was like,
That was nice of you.
It really
Thank
was
you.
sweet. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's very nice. by the
Finally,
way.
you made us like wait for it, but finally.
I really made you wait for it. But I thought it was really sweet. Like you felt like it was a real love scene. Like they
yeah,
were
it was
really-
very much a love scene.
No, they put a lot of time and money into it, obviously, because the longer it is, the more of that shooting day it took. And it was important to the
Yeah, it was sweet. And I
writers.
thought the kiss was really sweet. Like I
Yeah.
thought,
I
okay,
didn't
that
say
would have
that-
been a good payoff for the audience.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it would be such a drag for it to have been a short little and then pan out.
Yeah.
Out of after all of this. That would have been
No,
A kiss on the forehead
mistake.
and then fade to black.
The audience waited 30 episodes for this. So
Yes.
like 30 episodes, let's make a real, you know.
Exactly. It was
Yeah,
just a
and I
love
did
scene.
I don't think I said this at the top, but this was written by Frank South and Darren Star. Those are the guys that wrote this particular episode. So, and this is the main couple. You know what I mean? That they live together, Billy and Allison. Will they ever get together? And this is the episode where they finally do. We'll see how long it lasts. We'll see how it goes. But this was it. And yeah, it ends with it. The whole episode ends with the "You're my
Fade to
everlasting
black.
love." And
Yep.
Yay!
Lots of
Really
juicy
lovely.
stuff in this one.
really
That was
good.
really fun. Very satisfying ending to this episode.
A
Yeah, I
marriage
just-
ends and a
Well, you
love
can
story
just see-
begins.
I love how one story is like building and beautiful and
That's
lovely and the
true.
people a yay, and the other one that's the demise of whatever they had, their marriage, their relationship. It's just ends so sickeningly, where she just says, "That's all I need to know."
Yeah.
And there's a great close up. I thought there was a great close up of Michael there, where you just see Jane. She's so open and vulnerable, like, "Oh my God," and then you just see him like, "Oh God." There wasn't defense. I just thought it was really smart to
Yeah.
be like, oh, Jane. You just see a softness for a second.
And only 2 more episodes left in this season of season 1 of Melrose Place.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
So we're going to have a couple more episodes, and also we have some cool guests coming up. 2 more guests.
We do.
Yes,
we do.
All right, ladies.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the next one.
I know. We'll see you for a Melrose Minute and again next week for another recap.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. I super have to pee. Okay, hold on.
Why is a soap opera western like Yellowstone so wildly successful? The American West with Dan Flores is the latest show from the Meat Eater Podcast Network. So join me starting Tuesday, May 6th, where we'll delve into stories of the West and come to understand how it helps inform the ways in which we experience the region today.
Listen to The American West with Dan Flores on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
In 2020, a group of young women found themselves in an AI-fueled nightmare.
Someone was posting photos. It was just me naked. Well, not me, but me with someone else's body parts.
This is Levittown, a new podcast from iHeart Podcasts, Bloomberg, and Kaleidoscope about the rise of deepfake pornography and the battle to stop it. Listen to Levittown on Bloomberg's Big Take podcast. Find it on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Michael Kasson, founder and CEO of 3C Ventures, and your guide on Good Company, the podcast where I sit down with the boldest innovators shaping what's next. In this episode, I'm joined by Anjali Sood, CEO of Tubi. We dive into the competitive world of streaming.
What others dismiss as niche, we embrace as core. There's so many stories out there, and if you can find a way to curate and help the right person discover the right content, the term that we always hear from our audience is that they feel seen.
Listen to Good Company on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Sam Mullins, and I've got a new podcast coming out called Go Boy, the gritty true story of how one man fought his way out of some of the darkest places imaginable.
Roger Caron was 16 when first convicted.
Has spent 24 of those years in jail.
But when Roger Caron picked up a pen and paper, he went from an ex-con to a literary darling. From Campside Media and iHeart Podcasts, listen to Go Boy on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to an iHeart podcast.